Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for another episode of Added Time, answering your questions that you kindly submitted for today's video. But before we get into any of that, I want to ask you guys, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also hit the like button if you're enjoying the content because it helps out the channel as well. Now, as we do every Monday, let's get into your questions. Firstly here from Jasper Gray, who asks, not sure that this is a question, but can you give us your thoughts on the negative fans, Lampard outers and Mount haters? Of course, after a defeat like that yesterday, there's always going to be negative reaction. It's never going to be upbeat, is it? For any defeat for Chelsea, even with context. Of course, you're going to get very reactionary people. Some of those, that's just their natural instinct when a team loses in regards to football. Others, maybe they want to get a reaction from other people and think that's the right thing to do. I always stress on this channel, I think it's about looking at the wider context, the bigger picture of things currently, especially with Chelsea in the current context of things with Lampard as a coach, learning on the job as well, bringing in as many players as he has and making them gel. I mean, so many of them not available at the moment and waiting to see Frank Lampard's full strength team. Of course, I see reactionary comments, questioning, is Lampard's job at risk currently? If that's always the reaction, I don't think Chelsea will ever improve and ever get a structured side. I think constantly hitting the reset button over and over again has cost Chelsea in recent years and is why we are where we are in terms of being so far behind Liverpool currently in the Premier League. So it's about staying and sticking to a vision and allowing Lampard with his full strength team to improve the squad. In terms of Mason Mount, we saw this last season, but I think Mount has proved a lot of his doubters wrong. Of course, he's had a slow start to the season, but it's a long season, as he proved last year. I think he's going to be an essential player once again. So it's about being reasoned, not falling too much into hyperbole and looking at the bigger picture in regards to football, because I think that's a healthier way of looking at things personally, in my opinion. Callum Jack asks, do you think we have to sacrifice one of Mount or Kai to be able to play the right system that Frank wants? Maybe when we have the full strength team available, you could see either a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1. I think both players have that versatility within them to be able to play in a variety of positions, which I think helps Lampard in a sense, because even if in some cases, if he plays a 3-4-3, for instance, we know that Mount and potentially Havertz as well could play as inverted wingers. Havertz, as he did yesterday, plays as a number 9. So there's that option as well, which I think helps both of these players. And I think helps a lot of the attacking players Chelsea have this season, that Frank can move them around. But when everyone else is fit and, if Pulisic's firing, if Ziyech is in the team and they're very much, dominating the flanks in terms of positioning, Werner's up top, and really, you'd think that there'd be one position maybe available in that sort of advanced midfielder, number 8, number 10 role for Lampard, depending on the formation he goes for. I think it's going to depend on form and merit, and that's the right thing. I think, Kai still adapting to the league, Mason Mount finding his feet at the start of the season. There's going to be competition for places, and that's the right thing. So it will be a challenging thing for Lampard. It's a big question, does he stick to the player he's put a lot of faith in Mason Mount, or go with Kai Havertz, the new signing? We're going to have to wait and see, aren't we? Manhandle TFC asks, was Lampard to blame for yesterday's result? I think it's really harsh to blame Lampard for yesterday's result sort of fully. I think there are things to critique about his team selection, the way we played at times. I mean, there was this sort of line of thinking yesterday after the game that, with Chelsea a bit too reactive, a bit too defensive in that first half. Could we have been more proactive as we have been in the past? I think, for me, the mindset may have been by Lampard looking at the game at Anfield in July, where we were 3-0 down, 3-1 down at half-time, conceded a lot of goals, were very open in that game, and I think that was a concern for Lampard, and I think it's quite clear in the opening games of the season. I think he wants to be very defensively solid. He's clearly focusing on that, and that may sacrifice some of our attacking fluidity, but if we're going to nail down defence, I think that's a positive. But then a red card alters that. It absolutely changes the plans. Frank has to take off Kai Havertz. I did think, for me, it was two things, well, actually 3 things in terms of selection. Firstly was no Olivier Giroud. I spoke about this in my review yesterday. I think a lack of a focal point. I think Kai was very much dominated physically, and I think that Giroud could have definitely done a job up there to link play, to really hold up the ball, because Chelsea a lot of the time were kicking the ball long when they weren't able to get out of the press with passing, which I think struggled, and and I think that actually could have helped Timo Werner as well getting into the game a bit more. Secondly was a lack of natural width in the team, and I think HUDSON-ODOI could have given that. I do understand that Mount being in the team, tracking back with Andy Robertson and doing quite an effective job in the first half, but that was a bit of a concern for me. I would have liked to have seen HUDSON-ODOI get some minutes yesterday. And then lastly, Kepa starting once again. I think that was a concern for me. I was a bit surprised that he didn't go with Caballero, giving Kepa that chance again, and it cost Chelsea dearly once again. So those are the 3 things I think I critique about Lampard yesterday, but I still think you have to take into consideration not only the opposition, but the fact Chelsea got a red card, and I think that massively altered the game and where it went eventually in the second half. Kwame No asks, is Kepa's Chelsea career over after his mistake? Do you think Frank's given him his last chance? We'll have to wait and see based on Mendy. I do think Mendy has to go into some form of quarantine at the moment when he does arrive and is officially announced as a Chelsea player, which we do expect in the coming days for sure, him being confirmed as Chelsea's new goalkeeper. That obviously in the long term and even the short term is going to massively alter Lampard's selection. I wouldn't be stunned if it isn't too long before Mendy is starting for Chelsea, especially if he adapts very quickly and adds what Chelsea needs in between the sticks. I think it's, defining moment. It was the one, I think, really comical blunder from Kepa we've seen in terms of just a real obvious one. He hasn't had many of those. It's been more, as I said before, and I think maybe that's why me and other people have been fooled into maybe defending Kepa a bit more in the past when not actually looking at the raw stats of last season, which were really poor, of just passing the ball to the opposition. I think that his confidence is obviously so low, so shot. I hope he's getting support behind the scenes from coaches, fellow teammates, because it's obviously a very difficult time for him. And yeah, I think writing's on the wall at the moment. I don't think he's going to last that long as a Chelsea player, whether it's January, whether they can recoup any sort of fee, anyone willing to take him. I think he will stay at least till a January window, but definitely I think next summer he'll be off in some form of capacity. The problem is how big a fee can Chelsea get, because it's obviously not going to be very big. It's going to be a massive loss for the club in terms of financially. But yeah, I think writing was on the wall. Not even yesterday. I think it's been on the wall for quite a long time now. But yesterday, I think just rubber stamped the reason why Kepa won't be Chelsea's goalkeeper moving forward. Josh asked, do you think Lampard got the team selection wrong today? Personally, I don't think we will ever get the best out of Mount anytime he plays on the wing. We saw it against Brighton. I slightly disagree. I think Mount can play out there. I think he's more effective in a 3-4-3 system where he plays as an inverted winger rather than in a 4-3-3 system. I think when he's able to get closer to the striker, and that was the problem yesterday because Kai being sort of that false nine, I think if Mount has a more bulkier or more focal point to play off up there, I think he can do really well. I think he works very well as a second striker. We saw that last season with Tammy at points, that natural connection, but also with Olivier Giroud later on in the season. So I don't quite buy the thing that Mount can't play on the wing, because I saw it last season, as I say, an inverted winger being closer to the striker. Now, I think the problem for Mount is how regularly are Chelsea going to play a 3-4-3, because Frank hasn't done it so far this season. I think we very much are leaning in the direction that Frank wants to play a fullback system, which is, I think, going to maybe prevent Mount being as effective on the wing. But yeah, I think that going into the game against Barnsley, I really want to see HUDSON-ODOI back in the team, playing as that natural winger. And once we get natural wingers in Christian Pulisic and Hakim Ziyech back, I think that's going to make a massive difference to our play. Then, as an earlier question asked me, in terms of Mount or Kai, who plays that more central midfield role, I think Frank has got a lot to work out. But I don't fully agree that Mount can't play out there. I just think a variety of factors yesterday in terms of chemistry probably prevented Mount from getting into the game fully, which I think we will see in the coming months as the team gets used to playing with each other and the new players integrate more, in my opinion. And lastly, Nigel here asks, according to Tomori's performance against Liverpool, do you think loaning him is the best move? I think yesterday could be another twist of fate that goes in Tomori's favour. If you think about it last season with David Luiz leaving for Arsenal on the final day of the transfer window, he was linked to a loan move to Everton, which looked like it could have gone through. Then Luiz kicks up a fuss, he leaves the club, and then Tomori stays and breaks into the first team. I was so happy to see Tomori out there yesterday. I think he done really well considering the circumstances. I think he really impressed considering this guy hasn't played a lot of competitive football in recent months due to selection and also injury. It was almost a throwback at times to autumn 2019 where him and Zuma formed a really good partnership for me. I think that could potentially be a big moment for Fikayo Tomori. And also on top of that, Antonio Rudiger not being on the bench. You don't see that a lot, as a senior defender. I don't know if that's anything got to do with maybe fitness, but we did not hear about that in terms of Rudiger. So maybe there could be a situation where Rudiger leaves before the end of the transfer window. We'll have to wait and see on that. But that was a big decision for me by Frank Lampard. And Tomori, I think, really impressed. And I'd be really disappointed if Frank does not give Tomori a start on Wednesday for me. Because Christensen is out, maybe giving Zuma a rest. Thiago Silva could be available for that game. So Silva and Tomori could be the partnership. But Tomori, for me, definitely yesterday, I think Frank has to take note of that. Because that's very impressive in a very difficult situation. Proving once again why he could stay and could impress this season. So yeah, he could be staying, absolutely, especially if Rudiger may be on the way out. We'll have to wait and see in the coming weeks. But thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter @SonOfChelsea. Have a great day and I'll see you again.